Evening, folks. Welcome back to the Leeds View for the match day preview of Manchester City versus Leeds United. We head off on the road this weekend, off to the Etihad. That hasn't been a tremendous stomping ground for Leeds. Historically, the odd shock win, and I wonder, is there any chance of an absolute shock this weekend? I'm not sure if it is, given what Manchester City did midweek when they rested 10 of their first team players and should come into this game pretty sharp. Daniel Farke talked in the press conference today about the fact that he likes playing sides straight after a Champions League weekend or week's game. But this one's a little bit different because they rested so many players. Also asked, how do you stop Erling Haaland? And I think the most obvious answer that's ever been given, you just stop the ball from getting to him. That's the only way you're going to stop him. Leeds are going to have to mind the extra details in this game. They're going to have to be very mindful of the finer margins in the match as well. They won't be able to give even half chances. Whatever about giving away a couple of chances in recent weeks, they won't be able to give away anything in this game to somebody like Erling Haaland. And it's not just him. Even if you do manage to keep him quiet, you've got to worry about the other star-studded lineup that they have. There's a gulf between these two sides. But I think the expectation in this game is probably at the lowest it's been at any game, probably since the Arsenal game earlier in the season. And maybe that leaves the door open for a shock. And I get like this every week. I start the week thinking, God, Jesus, the end of the week is going to be tough. And then by the time I get to the weekend, I'm like, yeah, you never know. You never know. But I think we probably do know. And for Leeds, a performance in this game is what's going to be important. And again, from what Daniel Farke said today, hard work ethic, character, all of those things are going to be really, really important. He says Leeds United are second, along with Manchester City in terms of physical output. I think Leeds United are putting all their physical output into the first half of games because the momentum graphs and the data suggests that the second half sees Leeds United fall off a little bit. So they are going to have to try and manage this. They will not be able to sit back on the edge of the penalty area and try and soak up pressure in this game, because if they do that, it will be how many, not if they score in this one. So Leeds are going to have to try and get possession. Farke was asked also about the directness of play change, and do Leeds need to go more direct and play to the strengths of the players that they brought in this summer. Kind of went around the question a little bit, but pretty much said that we've already kind of done it and we're showing a mixture of possession-based football and more directness. But again, John McKenzie's piece and in The Athletic today, they've pointed out that since the first couple of games, Leeds have definitely stepped away from that more direct model and are taking longer to get the ball forward, which is allowing teams to get organised and sit in and making it more difficult for Leeds to get in behind them and cause them problems. So there will need to be more of what we saw in the first half against Aston Villa, the Man City game, the Newcastle United game, the Everton game, the first half against Spurs as well. That battling performance is going to be there, but they're going to need to be able to do that for as long as they can, especially at the Etihad. It's not going to be an easy weekend. Not for a second think that Leeds are going to go there and get a win. You take a draw right now, we'll even get that. Again, it comes down to just being about the performance. We'll go through everything as we normally do. We'll go through the form guide of both sides, home and away, coming into this game. We'll look at the team news for both sides, and we look at a couple of statistics, and some of them aren't great. They're not great. They're not all great. We'll talk about the team sheet as well, because there will need to be changes to the team this week, enforced ones. But Daniel Farke also spoke about the 3 games in 7 days, which means Leeds United are going to also have to look at rotating the side and giving more players opportunities. And they're going to have to be very mindful. I know I've talked about it a lot this week, but they're going to be very mindful of Ethan Ampadu, 1 yellow card away from a suspension, and he will get that suspension if he picks up a yellow card in any of the next 7 games. We'll get your comments as well. I'm my own tonight. No mod, give me a dig out tonight, but I'll get through a couple of comments before we get into the finer detail. Big Dave's in the house. Good evening to you. Rick is here. Evening, Steve. Evening to you. Jacko, evening, Jer. Sound a bit out of sync, or less. It could be me. It could be out of sync. Unfortunately, sometimes with the camera and the mic, that can happen. I hope it's not too bad. Calgary calling, oh dear, there could be disaster masterclass for Farke, at least 4-0. Maybe let's hope not. You never know, indeed. You just never know. Good evening. And SST, yes, we can win it. All we need is their players to slip on that rocking horse. The away fans to throw hens tea at the goalie. And of course, Blue Moon to blind them in the back line. Yeah, fingers crossed. No doubt the only change will be Stacky. Well, it'll be 2 because there is team news. Sean Longstaff is out of the game as well as Anton Stack. So we're going to have to look at that. We'll get into it though. We'll get some stuff up on the screen just in a couple of minutes. I'll get these stuff loaded up so we can actually have a proper conversation. But let me know where your head is at coming into this, what you think the potential scoreline could be in this game? Do you think that we can get anything from it? And what you thought of the press conference today? Daniel Farke talked an awful lot about the data suggesting things are going in a better direction for Leeds United, but we have heard that before from a previous Leeds manager, and it's never something I like to see a manager go down the route of. But again, he does point to the physical output stats, and that is something that Leeds are going to have to use an awful lot this season. It's going to have to be workload over quality. He talked about efficiency this week in the press conference, and that was very much the word of the day, was efficiency. And he meant efficiency in a couple of different aspects. Talked about efficiency in front of goal. That's been a talking point for a couple of weeks, but he also talked about efficiency in tackling and defending, that we have to make sure that we do our jobs across the park. Ethan Ampadu has been guilty in the last few weeks of having runners get away from him, get into the penalty area and free, and there's been a huge amount of talk about the fact that we're conceding goals from the left-hand side, which really does kind of point the finger at Noah Okafor and Gabby Goodmunson. But I've got to be honest with you, I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet about this one, because crosses do come in from both sides in matches, but Leeds don't appear to be tracking players into the penalty area, and that's where the goals are coming from. And if players were tracking their markers and were tracking these players into the dangerous areas, they'd be clearing those chances and we wouldn't be talking about this. So there is culpability, not just from the left-hand side, but from the central players who are not and have not been tracking runners into the penalty area and giving up these really easy chances to score goals, especially in the 6-yard area. There's been too many goals scored for Leeds from pullbacks and players running into the penalty area. So that needs to be sorted. Farke talked about it. He said that they have looked at it. They have talked about it. They've looked at videos. They've worked on it in training ground. But we do need to see that actually pan out on the pitch as well. So I have two different team lineups tonight. One that I think Daniel Farke will likely do, and one that I think he could do if he decides to shake things up a little bit. And again, if he is thinking about a potential rotational option coming into the next couple of games. It's 3 games in 7 days. They're not 3 easy games. This could be tough. The Liverpool one's easy. Apparently, Arne Slot's been given 2 games to turn around his season. So Leeds is the 3rd game. So maybe he's gone by the time he gets to Leeds, and will they get a new manager, bounce off a new guy, or does he get one more game after one of those 2? And it could be Leeds. We'll have to wait and see. But we do have 2 of those games at home. Let's start off. Let's get into the form guide, and we'll start off with Manchester City, as they are the home side. So yeah, having a look at this and look at the league table so far this season. Currently, Manchester City are sitting in 3rd place in the league. They've got 7 points off the top. Played 12 games, won 7, drawn 1, lost 4, scored 24 goals in 12 games, averaging 2 goals per game, conceded just the 10. And in the last 5, 3 wins and 2 losses. In terms of their home form, it's pretty decent as well. 2nd in the home form table. Played 6, won 5, no draws, only 1 defeat. They've scored 16 goals in 6 home games. They've only conceded 4, and their top goal scorer is Erling Haaland with 14. What's interesting about this as well, though, is Haaland's got 14. The next top goal scorer for them is a joint one between Doku, Diaz, and Gonzalez, all of them on 1 goal, which seems crazy that they're all 13 goals behind Erling Haaland. Leeds have got players that have scored more goals than most of Manchester City players this season outside of Haaland. So there's that. But yeah, that's going to be the one to keep an eye on. Doku's got their most assists, and that's going to be a real one to watch in the wide areas. That could be terrifying if it goes well for them and not so well for us. So we are going to have to make sure that we can deal with. From a Leeds perspective, though, form guide so far this season, we have dropped officially into the bottom 3, sitting 18th in the table, 11 points total this season. We are level with West Ham, though, so depending on how the results go, we could get out of the bottom 3 this weekend. But so far, played 12, won 3, drawn 2, lost 7, scored 11, conceded 22. Away form also, unfortunately, is 18th for Leeds. And in the away games, we've played 6, won 1, drawn none, lost 5. We scored 4 goals on the road this season. We've conceded 15 goals in 6 away games. Obviously, 5 of them came against Arsenal. Let's hope that doesn't repeat itself at the Etihad. Leeds top goal scorer. We now have a single clear goal top goal scorer, Lucas Mecha, with 3 goals for Leeds. Very fortunate what to win the weekend, but striker has to be in the right place, and he was in the right place, and he did score his goal. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. After that, it's Joe Rodon, Noah Okafor with 2 goals each. Jump back into the comments just really quickly to see how everyone's getting on. Top Gear in the house said, never like to go in expecting to lose, but I can't see this being anything other than an absolute hammering. Lucas saying it's a big stadium. There's nowhere to hide. The lads are going to have to put a shift in, and the 12th man is going to have to be massive. Come on, Leeds. Last 45, all Leeds aren't. Wade Jack says 1-0. to Leeds. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? That'd be fantastic. Steve says we need to be very disciplined against Manchester City. Keep our formation, no ball watching, make our tactics, and no switching off. Huge. Good evening, Mac. Hope you're well, man. A free hit. Try something new. Will Farke try something out of his comfort zone? I doubt it very much. I think he might play between the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1, although essentially pretty much the same system. You have a 10 and 1, 10 drops in a little bit, becomes an 8 in the other one, especially how Leeds play with the very, very wide winger. But interesting to see what they'll do with Willie Gnonto and Dan James. He did name check both those players as players that are, well, we don't go direct because our wingers, Willie Gnonto and Dan James, don't win headers. Now, both of them haven't been in the team starting games, and I'm not sure why we'd focus on the wingers not winning the headers when you've got 2 6-foot+ strikers who you normally aim those to as well. But yeah, potentially a free hit. I'd take a horrific 0-0 game. Absolutely, you would. If Farke goes, who's the favourite take? Brendan Rodgers is up there, both fencing. I genuinely don't want to talk about it. I don't think Daniel Farke is under as much pressure as people are making out, genuinely. And I'll tell you what I think on this. Basically, if you listen to the press conference today, Farke said that the goal was to finish 17th. There was a leaked report a couple of weeks back that also said the 49ers wanted 16th, 17th. So from I suppose, a KPI perspective of being given at the start of the year for your job, he's 1 point, or he's level on points with 17th right now. So as far as the ownership would be concerned, and as far as he's concerned, he's doing the job that they set out from, whether we like that or not. And I don't like it. I think aiming for 17th is like aiming to win, aiming to go into a game and play for a draw. You ultimately will lose. So, but I don't think he's under as much pressure as people actually think he is. He didn't want to talk about it today, but I think if there was a massive turn in the fan base in the next couple of weeks, maybe, but I genuinely don't think he's probably under as much pressure as the media is making out. I made my feelings known, and I think Leeds need to change, but I'm not going to go pumping out videos on it because what's the point? He's still in the job. I want Leeds to win this weekend. I want Leeds to win next weekend. I want Leeds to win the week after. So, we'll talk about it as and when it happens. What did he have to say in the press conference? Oh, he said loads. Efficiency was the main thing. You just got to be on it, Someone snap on. Please put Darlow in net instead of the comedian Perry. Well, Darlow was conceding 2 goals per game, and so was Perry. So I said this the weekend after the match. If you're looking to pick out individual players like Brendan Aaronson, if you're looking at picking out individual players like Jacobi, Pascal Struijk, or Lucas Perry, you're focusing on a symptom of the problem, not the problem itself. So, and there was a really good angle of the Lucas Perry free kick where Joe Rodon doesn't jump with the wall and the ball goes straight over Joe's head. Has Joe jumped? Doesn't go in, and Perry maybe sees it. But yeah, he needs to do a bit better. But I don't think, Carl Darlow fell over for Wales and gave a guy pretty much an open goal to shoot at last week. So yeah, for me, there's a bigger problem that needs to be addressed. Does putting Gruev in as sweeping DM? I think you'll see him coming in. To the question mark, will Tanaka play? Man City's top scorer is Esteve from Burnley. Scored 2 home goals in their game. Will revert to a 4-2-4, Longstaff and Stack out. No, I don't think he'll go to a 4-2-4. Good evening, Tony. If only we still had Stuart Dallas. I know to harness the ghost of Stuart Dallas past. I take a draw right now. I take to bite your hand off for a draw. Evening, Steve. Hope you're well. So a game that we have given up on, we never give up on anything, Steve, but we are realists as well. Just because we don't like talking about negative stuff doesn't mean things aren't negative and you shouldn't also address them. We can't live in a happy bubble all the time. Sometimes the realism has to come out and be spoken about. And I never go into anything assuming we'll lose. You just never know. We have to be a bit realistic as well, what we're coming up against. Well, Farke talking about Leverkusen so much, wondering if he's copying their tactics. Well, that would be 3 at the back, wouldn't it? I'd celebrate if I saw us play 3 at the back. What's the injury situation like? We'll get to that in a couple of seconds. Fair play, mate. Absolutely no problem at all. Have a bad feeling past few weeks that none of it's working. It's not working. The data suggests nothing's working right now, but the first half against Villa was a big step forward. It was a return to what we saw earlier in the season, and hopefully that's a marker. If we can do that more often, it might not be in this game, but if we can do that more often, then maybe we'll see how we go. Right, I'll park the comments for a second. We'll get back into some extra data. Let's get to the team news coming in. We'll start off with Man City's team news. There we go. They've only got 2 players out of this game. Mateo Kovacic is out with an ankle injury and Rodri is out with a knee problem, but they've got players to come in. They've been out long-term anyway. They rested 10 players in the Champions League game midweek, so they are all coming in fresh and healthy. Haaland rested as well, so no issue there. From a Leeds perspective, it's not great news. Sean Longstaff has a calf strain and he will be out from 4 to 6 weeks. Anton Stack has concussion. Daniel Farke talked about maybe having him back on Sunday, but he comes back into competitive training on Sunday. He's not allowed to be in any contact training till Sunday because of the concussion protocol. Dinnery, the injury expert at Leeds Live, reckons it'll be 12 days, so he could also miss the game midweek against Chelsea, and that's the one we got to keep an eye on. Ethan Ampadu. Sebastian Bornau has a bit of an MCL niggle, but there'll be a late check on him, so we'll see how we get on with that one. But yeah, the interesting one's going to be if Anton Stach can get back for the Chelsea game in midweek. That could be okay, but depending on how bad the injury or the concussion was, he also has to pass a test from the FA. And again, Mr. Dinnery, keep forgetting his first name, so it's Mr. for now. He says more than likely 12 days, which would likely get him back just before the Liverpool game, but he can return to contact training on Sunday. He'll only have 2 days to get ready for that game then in terms of training. But yeah, if Ethan Ampadu picks up a yellow card in this game of the weekend, then that means Leeds will be without Stack and Longstaff and potentially Ampadu as well. So could be without 3 central midfielders, which might actually force Daniel Farke into a change of system and likely see Brendan Aaronson come in as the number 10, which, won't please everybody, I'm pretty sure. We've got a couple of statistics to throw up on the screen before we jump back into the comments. We'll start off with the first one. There we go. Leeds are looking for their first win over Manchester City in front of supporters since a 4-0 win at Main Road back on January 13th, 2001. Leeds won 4-0 on that day. Eric Bakke, Lee Bowyer and Robbie Keane scored twice in that one, despite winning the first All Division title in 91-92. Our worst defeat came at the hands of Man City when we lost 4-0 on Grand National Day on April 4th, 1992. And this will be Leeds' 6th visit to the Etihad, having recorded 1 win and 3 losses in all competitions. Yeah, Leeds haven't won in front of fans. We obviously did beat them at the Etihad during the COVID season when Stuart Dallas scored the 2 goals in that game as well, and that fantastic breakaway goal at the end. And maybe that's what Leeds need to do in this game. Maybe it's a case that Leeds need to try and sit back and counter-attack, but they'll need to get up the pitch as well. They can't park themselves in the 18-yard line and be as slow to get out as they have been and keep inviting pressure onto them. They've got to make sure that when they do get these spells of possession, which every team gets a spell of possession, doesn't matter how bad the opposition is, you'll usually get 10, 15 minutes in each half where you've got a little bit of possession. And it's what Leeds will do with that. That will count. And again, efficiency is the word that they use. They're going to have to take chances if they get them, and they're going to need to make sure they minimize absolutely every single chance that Man City get. From a team sheet perspective, this one's interesting. So there's 2 options for me. There's the one that I think he'll do, and then there's the one that he could potentially do. And the first one is the one that I think that he will do, and that is this one right here. It's the 4-3-3. And if I was to guess, I would say it's Lucas Perry in goal, Jayden Bogle right back, Gabby Goodmunson left back, Joe Roden and Pascal Strouk at centre back. Your 3-man midfield of Ethan Ampadu, Ao Tanaka and Ilya Gruev. And then Brendan Aaronson on the right, Noah Okafor on the left, and Lucas Mecha up front. The Ilya Gruev one's going to be an interesting one as well. He's an out-and-out defensive midfielder. He will get criticised, no doubt, after the game for not being a great forward passer. That's not what he's there for. His job is, and what he does very well, is wins tackles and passes the ball 5 yards to somebody else to look after the next part of the game. So he will likely come in this one, unless he decides to go back to his old formation of last season with a 4-2-3-1, in which case I think he might do this. And again, the back line will be the same. Goodmunson, Strouk, Rodon, Bogle and Perry in goal. Then a 2-man midfield of Ethan Ampadu and Ao Tanaka. And then the 3, Dan James on the right, Brendan Aaronson in 10, Okafor on the left, and Lucas Mecha up top. The Brendan Aaronson one, I think, is, again, people always tend to go too far with their criticism of player, whether you like him or not. I always say, once you go into the level of abusing somebody, you've lost the argument around the conversation of the player. Brendan Aaronson was decent in the first half against Aston Villa, way off in the second half against Villa, but so was a lot of the team come the second half of that game. Benny Farke spoke about it this week, and he was asked, is it time to take him out and give him a break from some of the direction of some of the criticism? I think an awful lot of it, we talked about it during the weekend. Jerry McNamee and Paul Brooker were both at the game. Both of them said that the cheer that came when Brendan Aaronson was taken off wasn't directed at Brendan Aaronson. It was directed at Daniel Farke for making the substitution, actually making a change. So I think he's kind of picked up some bits there. Yes, he is getting stick online, but he's been getting stick online last season as well, even when he was playing well. That's just going to be part and parcel of because he left the club 2 years ago, and there's some people who haven't gotten past that. But it doesn't look like Daniel Farke is going to take him out. Farke said that he probably won't play 90 minutes in the next 3 games, but no player might do that, and the outfield players, because they have to rotate in these 3 games in 7 days. So, but I reckon he starts. Now, will he start in the wide right position if he goes to 3? Probably, yeah. Although I think Dan James is probably built for this game, and if Leeds are looking to counter-attack, that gives them an avenue to get out pretty quickly and get the speed in those areas. Again, the fact that he name-dropped Nonto and James, And again, I probably read too much into some stuff that Daniel Farke does, but the fact that he did name check them for me makes me think a little bit like you might see both of them involved in this game, and maybe he changes both wide players. I wouldn't like to see Okafor come out, but Dan James and Jayden Bogle had a very good relationship last season, a good understanding between the two of them. I would like to see Nanto on the right hand side, but Daniel Farke, again, when he brought him on last weekend, brought him on the left, and he very much sees him as a left hand sided player. But I'd like to see that interchanging of passing we saw with Bogle and Nanto when they played in the cup match against Sheffield Wednesday earlier this season. But it's going to be an interesting one. I'm not sure what he's going to do in this one. Will he throw up a massive surprise? I said last week he might throw up a massive surprise. He didn't. He picked the most predictable lineup we could have probably picked. So yeah, I don't know if he will. Before we get to the talking points and wrap up, we'll jump back into the comments and just check in with people again. SST, the pressure is manufactured by the advocates wanting him out and the journos needing something to sensational. Sensationalism is a part of it, but I will be honest about this. And this is never a personal thing with me and Daniel Farke. I respect the job Daniel Farke has done for Leeds United. He did an incredible job when he took over Leeds in that first season to calm what was going on behind the scenes, because it wasn't a great time. But he had a very good squad that season, and he had the most expensive squad in the Championship last year. This year he doesn't. He has to work a bit harder for it. And do I think he's getting things right? No. Do I think there's a bit of stubbornness about what he's doing? Yeah, I do. Do I think Leeds need a change? Probably at this point, yeah, I do. But that's not my call to make. And it's not a personal decision. It's based on football. And again, I'm a Leeds United fan. I'm not a Daniel Farke fan. I'm not an individual player fan. I support my club and I want the best for Leeds United. So if I think Leeds are going down the wrong path, I'm likely to say it, but it's never a deliberate thing. Most managers last 3 years at a club, if they're lucky nowadays, and Daniel Farke is approaching that time, there is obviously a changing of the guard time, but it's, again, whether it is right or not, that's up to the club to decide, and they'll earn their money and they'll get the reaction from the fan base depending on which one that they make. But he needs to start getting results, and the narrative around finishing 17th needs to change for me. It's not a positive thing to say that, and it needs to change a little bit as well. Longstaff being out was a big blow. He's been one of our better players. I think gives the ball away far too often for me, but in terms of the work rate that he gets through, the tackling, the defensive side of the game, yeah, I would agree with that. Needs to play extra spud, my facet style, 4-4-2, as usual, level-headed response. Never give up and always will be Leeds. Absolutely. And come here, no matter what happens, I'm a Leeds United fan. And I'll always support this club no matter what. Good evening, Lucy. Hope you are well and keeping well. Keeping well. Borneo, what's the point to get rid of the croc in Vober and bring another croc in? Like, well, he's also just not been used as well, which has been unfortunate for him, but absolutely, yeah. Ben Dinnery, thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that. Timothy, Tim. Thanks, Jim. Tez AUK Hearts, don't want to ruin my holiday mood. I won't watch the next 3 games. Fair enough. Well, can't blame you. Evening all. Tickle the likes if you don't mind. Cheers, Top and Anna. I always appreciate the plug as well. That's what I meant, 4-2-4. It's a tough one. I'm not sure he will go to a 4-2-4. Bogle and Nanto work much better together, showed that in pre-season. Yeah, they looked good. But he doesn't play him in the competitive games in the right, bar that one League Cup game. Raj, good evening. As Farke said today, I'm looking for the 6 people who wanted us to finish. I don't know where that came from. And he's made a couple of strange comments recently, which again, I don't think helped the cause. He said after West Ham, people were talking about qualifying for Europe. They weren't. And he said when we draw a game last season, people wanted him sacked, and that wasn't the case either. And we're not talking about relegation. People are very realistic about where they want Leeds to finish. Nobody said Leeds would be 9th position this year. All of the pundits had Leeds for relegation. Most of the fans said 16, 17, 15 if you're lucky. Nobody said no. I don't know where that's come from, but again, strange comment to make. Farke really has brass neck to talk about mental health issues when you consider how he treated Papa Bamford, when you consider what Bamford did for the club. I'm sure that messed with Bamford. Said, yeah, there's more information about that floating around as well. Why don't we feel the Ford goalkeepers? Yeah, I know. Yeah, Rory Mahadi sitting in reserve as well. Waiting. Typical that we go into three massive games and we have injuries. Just gives injuries the injuries just give him a better excuse, and then he's dropped. Maybe, but look, that's the reality of football. There's an arrogance on behalf of Farke when he suggests last season was the best in Leeds history. It wasn't the best in the history. It wasn't. Wilco, who won both promotion and the league title, and being new to the title. Yeah. Beat Man U to the title, sorry. Hope you get the results. I'm going Sunday, but either way, I change Farke. Longstaff out might be a blessing as it will force a change. Well, I will fight Jim. I know. I just couldn't get it out of my face, Jim. Sometimes you look at something. I'm looking at a bright light in front of me as well. Sometimes you look at something, you're like, What? And my glasses are here somewhere. I should be wearing them. But yeah, I know, Jim. I'd rather lose with us attacking teams. Absolutely. Have a go. Have a go. Go down swinging, as they say. I'm still getting over the Brian. Yeah, fair enough. No tough games, just challenging ones. Absolutely, we got to go in and at least, as Daniel Farke said it himself in the press conference, we go with respect, but not with fear. And that should be the case. I agree. Farke seems rattled by the fans. It appears comments appear to be getting to him a little bit, and I just want to focus on his job. Doesn't need to worry about what the fans are saying. The fans are entitled to their opinion. They pay their money. They're the reason players get paid the wages they do. Fans are entitled to their opinion. I would say, ideally, put that opinion out in the right way, but people are entitled to support their side whatever way they want to. Steve said 10th, whoops. But not 9th, Steve. But not 9th. I do, Jer. Sorry, but don't worry about it at all, mate. We're not going to be here much longer, to be fair. Daniel Farke looked very stressed today. Did you? I thought he was quite calm, but you're not the first person to say that. I thought he was relatively calm, but he wasn't messing around today. When he was asked about his future, he said, there's no issue. Have they put a points total on where we finished this year? And he said, no. End of story. And does he still have a good relationship with Adam Underwood and Robbie Evans? Yes. I mean, he's pretty tight with the lads there. And as I say, I just don't think he's under as much pressure behind the scenes as people think that he is. By the way, congratulations on winning the podcast award. You worked bloody hard for it too. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Yeah, thanks again to everyone who helped us get into the initial final of the content awards, the football content awards, and then the judging panel who voted for us on the night as well to get the 2 awards. It's just genuinely mind blown last week, and very grateful to everyone that's supported this channel and watched the content. I said 10th or 11th. Jesus, you were optimistic, weren't you? Any chance of fluke and a win? Of course there is. There's always a chance. I'm not looking at the other score at the end of it, but there's always a chance. Of course there is. I'm a Lou Leeds fan from Australia, and I want to hear your opinion about the squad now. I think the squad is decent enough to stay in this league if we play to the squad's strengths. I think the system we're playing doesn't play to the squad's strengths. I think a 3-5-2 plays more into that. I think a more direct, aggressive form of football that we showed at times this season where we've been competitive is how we should play. I don't think we should play now from the back. I don't think we have the players to do that. I do think we have the players to be more physical and be more direct, get the ball into wide areas and cross the ball in. We bought 2 6-foot+ strikers and we don't cross the ball. You've got to start putting crosses in the box. So that's where I am with that. Jim says he spent a lot of the press defending. Of course he did. He's under pressure. His back's against the wall. And to be fair, a lot of the questions were aimed at him in a manner where he had to defend himself. As I say, I want to change, but I'm not going to pile on the man either and try and pull narratives out of questions that weren't there. For me, he is in a position where he has to defend himself right now because he's under pressure. Whether it's manufactured pressure or real pressure, the pressure is there and he has to deal with it. Yeah, he just said yes, nothing more than that. Exactly. I mean, sometimes that's the right answer, isn't it? Sometimes you don't need, 14 paragraphs of an answer to make your point. Just make your point. I always keep saying it. Make your point, don't celebrate it, which is, again, why we've said what we said about Farke at the start of the week and we haven't continued to make content about it because what's the point? Once it's out there, it's out there. Still can't believe we signed Longstaff. Watched a lot of Newcastle last year and was always thought he was rubbish. I don't think he's rubbish at all, but I do think there's limitations to his game. But again, it depends on how you want to play. If you want to play wide, open, expansive football, he's probably not the player. You want to play gritty, hard, aggressive football? Yeah, he has a place in the side. But again, it's horses for courses. Rumour has Pep is confident that he plays on the 15th team, mind you. The under 21s are pretty decent, to be fair. I think we still get 17th with 10 wins and 10 draws. I think 17th is still on. I think 16 and 15 could be still on. But I do think that we need to, as I said a couple of weeks ago, something has to change. It's either style, approach, system, players. There's got to be changes made there. And if the manager doesn't make those changes, then ultimately the manager gets changed. But there is still scope to change things within there right now. As a fan, I'd be happy to be proven wrong about Farke this weekend. However, I believe in reality. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as Ravaj. This again, it's not a personal thing. I want to see Leeds win. So if Daniel Farke goes and puts a huge running streak together and Leeds get out of the problem they're in right now, great. I don't care. I don't care who sits in the dugout. I really don't. Unless it's Brendan Rodgers. I don't want Brendan Rodgers in the dugout. I've heard too many bad things from Celtic fans about Brendan Rodgers. But outside of that, genuinely don't care who sits in the dugout for Leeds United, as long as Leeds United are successful. And that is the only metric that I care about as a Leeds United fan. Does Mez get? No, absolutely not. Ash, don't let current form cloud your judgment of what happened in the past. He's nowhere near it. He's nowhere near it, mate. He'd be gone in January. Final 10 games of the season do look winnable. They do, but you need to make sure you're going into that not cut adrift and with a bit of confidence and momentum as well, because even coming out of this block of games, if it ends up being 3 thumpings, which it might not, you're going into a run of games after that where you might, they're still not easy games, but you might get a couple of results, but confidence and momentum is going to be important there as well. Jer, would love you to have, sorry, Who would you love to have in? I don't genuinely, I don't like talking managers when they're still in the job, but there's a couple. Bo Svensson plays a style of play that would suit the squad we've got. I like Thiago Motta. I like Cesc Fabregas. I lost Cesc Fabregas doing a great job at Como. I'd love Cesc Fabregas. I think it'd be a fantastic signing, but it's not worth talking about right now. Daniel Farke still has a job to do. Leeds have games to win. Let's focus on that. 3-1 loss, I'm afraid. Yeah, has to make changes in the lineup, but he's going to have to make them. Jim question, if I could make one change to this team and no one is injured, what would you do, Jer? I'd put Dan James on the right-hand side. That'll be the one change. I think there's a question mark around Ethan Ampadu at this point as well about not tracking runners into the box. There's been too many examples of it in recent weeks. I think Ethan needs to tidy up the defensive side of his game a little bit, which is normally what he's very good at. He was excellent in the first half against Aston Villa, but second half he gets a bit loose, and when he gets a bit loose, he starts watching the ball and that. But yeah, I think the obvious change is the right-hand side. Ranson only as impact sub. Aaronson I think Brendan Aaronson as an impact sub is a really good shout because you get that high energy, that pressing from him. Yeah, last 50 minutes of a game, he could definitely make an impact. Seems a lot of Leeds fans want Farke out. What's your view, Jer? I've already given it, mate. I would change, but I'm not going to celebrate the point. Need quality crosses with Sean Longstaff out. Well, Stack is out as well, so that's your two set piece takers. That would be an interesting. Gabby Goodmunson is taking corners. Sometimes we have to wait and see. I heard that too. Never liked Rodgers at Celtic. Apparently, a very toxic environment behind the scenes in his 2 spells at Celtic. So, yeah, I trust your Celtic great. Well, I have a lot of friends that are just pure Celtic fans and they can't stand Brendan Rodgers. And the football's not great either. So, you're not getting any entertainment value. Farke lives in a dream world, in a Farke bubble. He's blinkered and deluded. How he actually thinks that we are good. He has put the fear of God into us, too afraid to pass forward. Managers believe in their styles. And they live and die by that, unfortunately. He needs to rotate earlier in the games. Yes, he does. The in-game management needs to be addressed. Absolutely, it does. Farke consistently gets out-coached by Russell Martin. Tells you, well, that was an issue, all right. Unai Emery last week showed that when he spotted a gap or an opportunity, he made a quick tactical shift and immediate impact. We don't make those tactical changes. We wait until the 70th minute and make our substitutions. Even in just making substitutions, I think at times it can be freshened up an awful lot earlier for like players. But yeah. Joe, what was the piece about long balls? And it's in today's news. Go check it out. It's at the end of the news video, Raj. There's graphs as well. I wouldn't be doing justice if I told you now, but basically Leeds have changed over the course of the season, but it's worth checking it out in the news today. True, because we're like 10 or more adrift would be too tough. Absolutely. If you're 10, 15 points behind, forget about it at the end of the season. You're done. Who's taking the corners? I'm going to guess it's Gabby. If I was to guess, bring back Stuart Dallas. I have so many upsets in my life. This is going to be ripe for one. Can see a draw or a win, almost impossible, right? It is impossible, but you never know. Miracles happen. It's Christmas as well, nearly. So maybe it's a Christmas miracle. Get DCL and Metro up top and just go long. If you're putting 2 strikers up, I put Joe Pirro with one of them. Then we would see the best out of Joe Pirro. I'd like to see that. Biggest issue I have with Farke is the predictability. Subs at 70 minutes. Yep, we all know that. I completely agree. Somebody put a question out the other day, Jer, on the OKB show, and I think it was, if you could bring... Sorry, the comments are refreshing. If you could bring one old Leeds player back to fit into the present team, who would it be? Gary McAllister as a 10. Someone that can find a pass and get goals from midfield. There seems to be confidence in the players that we have, but not the system and not the in-game management. Farke has to be waiting for it to click. Probably, and if you look historically, Daniel Farke's side, they usually take 10 games at all his clubs, Norwich, Leeds in the first 2 seasons. Not that we started badly, but slow starts. Gladbach the same. So he is coming into a time where his teams tend to start clicking, but he is sticking with pretty much the same players, although that will change now in the next couple of games. 3 and at the back, 2 up top. Why not? I would agree. You go with Jacobiol, who plays very well centrally in a 3. You get Pascal Struijk on the left of that, who can pass out from the back. You get Joe Rodon playing on the right-hand side of that 3. He plays in that position for Wales. Goodmunson and Bogle get those attacking wing-back kind of traits that they have more crosses from them then. You can keep that 3-man midfield of Ampadu, Stack and Longstaff if you want to, or you can introduce a 10 and go 3-5-1-1, and then you can bring a 10 in and play with a striker, or you can go 2 up top and bring Joe Pirro in. So I think there's players that can play in that system as well. And then Sebastian Borneo gets a position on the bench as covering. Maybe he gets a couple of games as well. So there's options there. We often lose our shape and momentum when Daniel Farke throws on. That tends to be when we need to chase a game that let's put all the strikers on. That's been there for a while, to be fair. Ampadu and Bogle for sure will pick up cards over the next 3 games. Likely. Even Matt, I drop Okafor for the game and play Aaronson and DJ on the wings. You wouldn't get a whole lot of creativity, mate. Go back to the Burnley game. Well, DJ didn't play in that game, but go back to the Burnley game for what that looked like. Thoughts on Corberán? I'm not sure. I think Carlos Corberán's a very good coach in the Championship. I take him absolutely. He's incredibly unlucky at the moment at Valencia. They are murdered with injuries at the moment with the side there, but he's still doing a very good job defensively. He's sorted them out. He's a good defensive coach, plays a kind of a hybrid Bielsa type football, but definitely a lot more defensive focused, has got different formations that he can play. But I've always liked Carlos. I think he'll be a very good manager in world football. He's in a tricky position at Valencia at the moment due to the restrictions that he had in the summer, but players coming in, and then also he's had a ton of injuries of important players that are out of his side at the moment. It's at that point now. I'm just keeping tabs on Leeds. It's Forest, Fulham, and West Ham. If we drop points, I hope they are too. Fulham have got a tricky run of games coming up. We're keeping an eye on their fixtures and their results as well. They could be dragged into this very quickly, and that could be the one side that Leeds can get above. And in terms of quality players on the pitch, I think we've got probably just as much quality as they have. They've got the odd one or two players of a difference. I wish someone would ask him about his thought process around the subs. He was asked last year. Are they predetermined subs or are they not? He said they weren't. They kind of look like they are. Not much your update here, but the news on the stadium delay, I thought, yeah, there's a bit of a delay, but it won't delay the actual building of the stadium. It's just a delay in the councils. But Leeds have already accounted for delays, they say. 10-0 versus City. Like go what Big Sam did with 6 defenders and no strikers. I know you're joking. I know. I hope you. I can hope you are. Dave, a member for 27 months. Wow, fantastic, Dave. Well done. Hey, anybody know where I can watch Leeds City game while in Tenerife? I don't know, but if anyone is over in Spain or there's a bar over there that shows it, go and let Dave know. Easy teasy. I just don't get why they recruited the way for 3-5-2, 5-3-2, 3-4-2-1 and don't utilize it. That's the question. That is the question that was asked today as well. We've seen Carlos Corberán at Leeds. He looked like a useful coach. He was good, yeah. He was good. Very good at West Brom. Did a great job at Huddersfield as well. Was he at Huddersfield? He was at Huddersfield. Yeah, got them in the playoffs. Great job there. Jared, people are stating they want Rodgers. But you say he could be bad fit. I think he's a terrible fit. I think the football is negative. I think the fans won't like the football. He will hang his players out to dry. He is very public about criticism, which shouldn't always be. Sometimes, maybe not always. And he has created a toxic environment twice at Celtic. And I've been told by people who know much better than I do. So, yeah. Heard Bo Svensson ruled himself out and Gerrard will not take it. Steven Gerrard is nowhere near the level of a Premier League manager. He proved that at Aston Villa. So, Bo Svensson might have ruled himself out. Thiago Motta, I think, is available. But yeah, there's always people out there. A big enough bag of cash changes anybody's mind. That's the way I put it. Leverkusen played 5 across the back against City and hit them on the break. That's the thing. Can we hit on the break and get bodies forward? I'll get to the last couple of comments before we wrap it up. Corberán won't be the man, May. All big managers won't come because we won't afford them. We could afford Emery. He's at Villa. We couldn't afford Emery. Yeah, we couldn't. We couldn't afford Slot either, and we couldn't afford Iraola as well, who have all gone on to, well, with the exception of Slot's season this year. Very good. Strachan or McAllister any day. As 10. 10, man. He's a wide right player, wasn't he? Was definitely joking. That's okay. We need to keep our eyes on Sunderland as well. They were awful against Fulham and they have a tough run of fixtures and they're about to lose, I think it's 9 players for the African Cup of Nations. Hope Haaland has mercy on us. We did support us as a kid, so let's hope so. Longstaff out until January, good news. And should the newish football directors go as well? That's a really good point, Michael. I think if the manager does go, I think there is also question marks to be asked around the quality of the leadership team there. And I think potentially there needs to be more senior people, experienced people in those roles that can help Leeds make the right decisions and tough decisions at times as well. You know, we don't need to have managers for life. We need an ownership that can make tough, ruthless decisions when they're needed and support the people when that's needed as well. So yeah, it's tough. Potentially we could be missing 5 by Wednesday next week. Bogle, Ampadu, Stack, Longstaff, Borneo. Worst times to come if that happens. Let's hope it doesn't. Tanaka, Ampadu, Gruev, Saturday then. Looks like it. Gerrard is the worst pick I can imagine. Yeah, Big Sam just put him forward. He's not really been linked with Leeds. Forget the other teams. We've been there before, relying on other teams. Absolutely. Do your job. 100%. Actually, 100%. And notice never even mentioned Sunderland as a promoted team. Well, they are also on the promoted side, but they've gone about things the other way. James for Bogle. At right back or as a wing back? Wing back. I'm assuming you mean wing back. Right, folks. Gonna wrap it up there. We'll have the news out in the morning. If you haven't checked out today's news, there is that really interesting piece from Baron Cross and John McKenzie, who's a statistician. Fantastic one from All Stats Are We as well. Go and check that out. It's a really interesting piece about how Leeds have changed their style since the beginning of the season and what that's meant for Leeds results and what it's cost us as well. So have a look. It's meant for Farke. No problem at all, mate. No problem. So yeah, check that out. And Palm Sports Bar in Tenerife, Dave. There you go for Leeds games. Right, I'm going to go and have my dinner. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you're watching this on demand, stick us a like on the video and a hype as well if you can. Outside of that, folks, enjoy the rest of your evening and your day. Back tomorrow morning for the final news video of the week. And then you're ready for the weekend's action over on bigup.com on Saturday for the watch along, and then back on YouTube on Saturday evening for the instant match reaction, and back in getting ready for the game on Wednesday. Podcast Tuesday. Last week's podcast is out if you want to check that out as well. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll talk to you later on. See you later. Bye.